to their age, had been driven by Anthony Snook, 45. All 5 were convicted of 2 counts of murder last month following a 6-week trial at Bristol Crown Court. Snook was later jailed for life and ordered to serve a minimum of 38 years. Mason Rist's uncle, David Knight, spoke outside of court.
No family should ever have to go through what our 2 families have gone through. These juveniles have not only destroyed our families, but to an extent their own lives and that of their own families. And we hope that as they grow older and mature, hopefully in prison, they do fully come to realise the extent of what they have done on that evening of Saturday the 27th of January. And they have to live with that for the rest of their lives.
There's been some football action this evening. In the EFL Cup, Manchester United lost 4-3 away to Tottenham Hotspur in the quarter-final fixture. The semi-final draw was also made this evening. Arsenal will play Newcastle and Tottenham will play Liverpool. Meanwhile, Chelsea won 5-1 against Irish side Shamrock Rovers in the UEFA Conference League. Those are your latest headlines. That's me done for the day. A very good evening to you. Now back to headliners.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Hello and welcome to Headliners, your first look at tomorrow's top stories with 3 comedians. First things first, though, let's take a look at what Leo and Nick will have to work with on Friday's front pages. The Daily Telegraph has PM picks Mandelson to win over Trump. The extra water bill hikes will follow 36% increase unless Labour kills failing watchdog. The Daily Express has Jazelle's brave message of hope after horror. The Metro, I have no regrets on the same story. The Independent, freedom for Aung San Suu Kyi. And we've got the Daily Star, who goes with world's boffiest boffin, afterlife is real. Oh, interesting stuff. Well, let's see if we can make sense of some of this one. We can start with the Telegraph, first of all, Leo.
So the Telegraph leads with the story that the Prime Minister has picked Mandelson, Peter Mandelson, a name you might remember from a couple of decades ago, to win over Trump as the sort of ambassador to Washington. It's an interesting choice, given that Peter Mandelson was previously the BBC Commissioner and described Mr Trump as a bully and a mercantilist. I mean, your one hope is that, you know, Trump doesn't have a dictionary.
Is that a wig that you wear lower down?
That's an angular merkin.
Ah, that's the one. I knew it was something like
he doesn't like bullies, but remember, this new Labour featured quite prominently in it, so they might be pro-bully.
Yeah, so maybe that was actually a compliment, and maybe Mr Trump will take it as such. But it's interesting that Farage is sitting there, has offered his services to act as the sort of bridge to Washington, which would make sense because he's got a very good relationship with Trump, and J.D. Vance is a relationship going back years, and could probably build those bridges. And, you know, Trump has made no secret of the fact that he's going to punish other countries, whether they're seen as friends or foes, if they have any sort of trade deficit. And we're getting into that later in the show, but there is a trade deficit. I think it runs about $1.5 billion a month. So, you know, Trump is going to be looking to turn the screws on Britain, and our screws are already quite turned. So we don't want that.
Just quickly, that was satirical content about Alistair Campbell. Please don't sue me, Alistair. It's Christmas. Love the podcast. But, yeah, I just wanted to say about Mandelson. I knew I'm not a genius, but I worked out a few weeks ago that Mandelson was going to get this when he did this interview where he said, hey, guys, we need to calm down about all this Trump stuff. Let's get more mature and let's stop it. I was like, oh, he's getting the ambassador job. Yeah. Because with Labour, it's just a choice of who's insulted Trump the least egregiously, right? Because it's like David Lammy, all right, can't be him. But it's like there's a meeting. Anyone that hasn't called Trump Hitler, you know, keep your hands raised sort of thing. And you have to get rid of everyone that's still called him Hitler. So Mandelson's probably the least ridiculous choice, right? Obviously, it'd be better if it was someone from Reform or something, but that was never going to happen.
Somebody who could actually get something good to happen. And some people have criticised the choice of Peter Mandelson. Novara Media, I think, came out and criticised it, saying that Peter Mandelson has been to Epstein Island. But like, they wouldn't have gone to Epstein Island if they got invited. I think anybody who got the chance to go on a private jet to like a fantasy island that looked like a James Bond Barry Lair with, you know, Stephen Hawking and Bill Clinton, man, you totally go there.
So you are, just to be clear, Leo, you're pro Epstein Island.
I'm pro.
And you would have gone.
No, I'm pro going to Epstein Island. I think the concept of the island is terrible.
If you went there just to chat with Stephen Hawking about Hawking radiation and, you know, what happens when a black hole eventually ends its life, amazing. Whereas the other people can do whatever they want there. You just focus on the chit-chat with Hawking, yeah?
Yeah.
That's what I would have done.
Absolutely.
It's a question I didn't think we'd have to answer on this show. What would you have done on Epstein Island?
Yeah,
I would have not gone. You guys would both have gone. That's fine. Yeah.
All right.
Your choice.
But, I mean, out of all the people to pick, you're right, everyone else in Labour said far worse, but Trump's not going to mind the previous insult. J.D. Vance also said some mean stuff about him, and look, as long as you pivot, he's fine with it.
But I think J.D. Vance is more useful to Trump. He had something to offer. Britain really doesn't have that much to offer. I mean, apart from, you know, we've got exports of Wensleydale cheese, but that's about it.
Yeah. But don't you think there's a reason why Peter Mandelson will do really well in America? He sounds like what Americans think Brits sound like.
Yeah.
And they're going to love that. It's like a Love Actually thing.
Yeah, but then most British politicians do. Maybe not Labour politicians. Like
Exactly,
Angela Rayner certainly doesn't.
They also can't tell
that
that
gritty Ken Loach drama.
They can't tell the difference. Americans think everyone in Britain has basically a Victorian accent. It sounds like the king in the 19th century.
Yeah.
Although Angela Rayner has slightly more of a whiff of those characters from Monty Python who wore the handkerchief on their head.
Yeah.
So I think they could have spotted that because they love a bit of Python over there. Right, fair enough. We can move on to the Daily Mail, which is the next one. Nick, what are they?
Oh, OK. I thought we were going to do Kemi and Clarkson. But, yeah, the Mail... Kemi's met Clarkson. That's that story. The Mail...
a lot of detail in that.
Nailed it. The Mail has... Now, look who's really crashing the economy, which is sort of quite an immature way to talk about the budget. But Rachel Reeves has been accused of killing growth. So the Bank of England, they're quite skittish, the Bank of England. You see, if you go too hard with the growth thing, then you trust and you have to disappear because you went too big on growth. But if you go too far the other way, it gets all stagnation-y. And this is what's happened with... That's not an economic... That's not from, like, Keynes or anything, stagnation-y, but that's one of my own. But basically, it's not... Growth's not happening because inflation's gone up, we've got a weak pound... Investors are being put off bonds. They're not investing in UK bonds. So now Bank of England has downgraded its growth outlook for the last 3 months of this year to 0, which sounds quite low. I'm no expert. From the previous prediction of 0.3%, the giddy heights of 0.3% to the crashing nadir. Yeah, we've gone from Singapore to Middlesbrough in minutes. So, yes, no offence, Middlesbrough, don't tweet me. But, yeah, Rachel Reeves has ruined the economy. But who can fix this economy? I don't know. Probably you, Leo, but...
Well, I mean, I do like a weak pound sometimes, you know, when I'm hungover. Lying in bed, but I mean, it's shocking. It's shocking what they've done. The combination of all the factors that are hitting our businesses, like Shoe Zone is closing down shops.
Yeah.
I think a lot of companies post COVID were already hanging on by their fingertips. So this is just, you know, another nail in the coffin for British enterprise.
Shoe Zone thing's a scam though, because if you have to walk further to get those shoes, by the time you've walked back home, they don't last long. They're Shoe Zone shoes. You've got to go and buy some more. So it's a Ponzi scheme.
That's a good point.
I don't really understand it. That's where I'm going with this. Although the weak pound thing is interesting as much as... Love the joke, but also it's one thing that actually helps the country. It's not great when you're in it, but it does help people think, oh, I'll invest over there because I get tons for that pound.
Well, it helps with exports as well because, you know, they'll be cheaper for other countries to buy. Unfortunately, with Trump in office, he doesn't want to, you know, he's probably America's one of our biggest destinations for exports, and they don't want to take them anymore.
Can't find anything cheery, can we? All right, to the Times, Leo, what have they got on their front page?
So they also have Mandelson and the budget, and they have this story about Jazelle Pelot standing outside court in Avignon after her former husband was jailed for 20 years for rape and recruiting other men to abuse her. And husband and 50 men, sounds like a darts score, husband and 50 men, found guilty of rape in her trial. I mean, truly sort of, not just horrific, but also... like bizarre. I've never heard of a story like this. Like really bizarre and horrible ordeal for her to go through. And she's finally got justice, and now she's not hiding away. She's being a sort of figurehead for for other people to come forward.
She was the one who decided to give up her anonymity in this case so that it would get more... So it could be looked at. We could learn from this.
Yeah, she was drugged and raped by her own husband from 2011 to 2020, and he invited at least 83 other men as well. At least 83. Isn't this just almost... It's almost hard to believe because it's so sick. Yeah,
truly shocking. We can move to the I paper, Nick, and, well, look at this one. This is not going to make us feel good either.
So, yeah, it's unfortunately another bad news. So extra water bill hikes will follow 36% increase unless Labour kills failing watchdogs. So this is Ofwat. We've approved...
Put it down.
Yeah, let's put it down. It's approved a 36% increase in prices over the next 5 years, apparently. And the government has... they're not keen. They've lost faith in Ofwat. I've not been massively following this, but all bills are massively going up, and it's bad, basically.
This is more than just bills going up bad. This is like, of all the industries to privatise, this is not the one, and it's done badly.
Because some people need water.
So, yeah, and also it's not a free market, because if you want to change your water supplier, you've got to move home.
That's true.
So, you know, it's not like you can just choose a different type of water. Maybe they should start doing that like they do with electricity. You know, somebody from EDF comes round the house and is like, who does your electricity? It's like, it comes out the wall. You know what I mean? You're going to send a different electricity into the system to come through the wall in my house? Doesn't make any sense. So maybe they could do that with water. I don't know. I'm not an expert on walls.
The weird thing is it's not even where the electrons come from. You think, OK, they'll just send the electrons, but with AC, the power's contained by the B field.
It's constantly vacillating.
Yeah, I'm sure we all knew that.
But the issue that I've got with water, we think our water suppliers and our water system has got so much worse over the years. Really what's happened is we've started measuring it. So because we're measuring the amount of sewage going into our rivers, it looks like it's getting worse. What we need to do is stop measuring it. Just stop looking.
When you said the issue I have with water, I thought you were going to go on a Lewis Schaefer-esque rant against water. I'm so sick of water. It's so overrated. It dehydrates you. But you mean that we measure it. Is that all that's happened? We just started measuring it. Are you sure?
We do put quite a lot of sewage in the rivers as well, which is bad.
I've seen you doing that.
The fact that advice was given to swimmers, and I'm not like a wild swimmer advocate, I think it's stupid, especially, you know, they've made heated swimming pools. Come on, get with the programme. But if you want to go and do that, you shouldn't have to be given the advice of swimming with your mouth closed in case you brush against a floater that goes in. I guess that's why they
Who on earth is going swimming in the Thames with their mouth open? And also, that's part of the reason I just don't want the system to change. David Walliams or Eddie Izzard decides to swim the Thames, and they constantly get diarrhea from all the poo that's in the Thames, and I just think that's wonderful.
That's how you're propelled. You take in stuff that causes diarrhea, and it's like a jet engine.
You're like a shark.
It's basically how it works. Let's try and change the tone then by going to the Star, Leo. What's on their front page?
So the Star has huge, with a lot of U's, if true, world's boffiest boffin, afterlife is real. So a man who's so clever he makes Albert Einstein look like a dimwit says he has proof the afterlife exists, which is nice. But this is just some guy who lives in the woods. Apparently he's got an incredibly high IQ, which doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to do amazing things. Like Stephen Hawking didn't have a particularly high IQ. It was about 150, so... You know, probably
it's lower than mine.
Ours put together. Is it lower than yours?
No, mine was a mere 137, but...
You're held back by those working legs.
Do you know what, though? It can go the other way, can't it? Because Ted Kaczynski, high IQ...
I was going to say, Ted Kaczynski also lives in the woods, comes up with some crazy ideas, and look how that happened.
Yes.
Hawking's IQ also didn't stop him from... Like, he was the only person who didn't have the excuse of going to the island to chat with Stephen Hawking. So, if anything, he needed a better excuse.
Yeah, and by the way, I love that the Daily Star has proved the afterlife. And for only £1, the paper costs £1 if you were missing someone reading out the prices of newspapers.
It feels like if this were true, it might have been on more than one newspaper.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah, the Mandelson thing pales next to Afterlife Real.
I just have to say, in defence of Stephen Hawking, I think if you did want to get away from him, you could.
True. All right. That's the front pages dissected. There's so a Doctor Who joke in there, which I can't do now because I'll feel bad. That's the front pages dissected. Up next, find out who is trying to get some Elon money and why Starmer is warning Donald Trump. Ooh, let's see after the break. This is Headliners, only on GB News.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
After the Hollywood ending that Wrexham Football Club have got, can Chorley FC benefit from a bit of the old celebrity magic dust?
I can't see why not. The guys have been down a few times now, and when they do come down, obviously they're bringing that with them. A little town like Chorley doesn't see much of the charts and big stars, so it's really nice to see them, and we always welcome them when they do come down.
And Mark, give us a flavour of the level of football. I understand you're in the National League North, right? That's 6 rungs down from the top flight. I mean, you're only just down the road from Manchester City, right? But I mean, give us a flavour of the 2 different worlds between your club and Man City.
Our players are all part-timers. So we've got kind of fitness coaches, we've got teachers, we've got all kinds of players who have full-time jobs alongside playing. Our average crowd is probably a tenth of what you get at Man City, probably even less than that. We get about 1,500 on a home game. The thing is, we know where we are and we understand where we are, and we are a real community club. Tonight, I'm ready now. I'm off to Marine, so off over to Merseyside. Playing the likes of Liverpool and Everton over on Merseyside would be kind of a dream come true. But we know where we are. We would just love to get to the Football League. So teams like Salford, Stockport County were in our division a couple of years ago, all flying now in the Football League. We just want to do the same. We sat down with the board last year and they told us a vision for the future, and that vision most definitely is that we want to be a Football League club. When we went to the Premier League, I know the boys have been saying that they 30 years will be in the Premier League and winning it. Well, let's hope we are, and let's hope I'm still around to see that.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. I'm Stephen Allen, joined by content creator Nick Dixon and content creator Leo Kearse. If you want to get involved as well, you can have your say by going to gbnews.com/your say. One comes in from Davy Biggles, who says... Incorrect comment from about electrons from Stephen Allen.
Ooh, hitting you where it hurts. The electrons.
They only move or drift. Well, I mean, obviously that's the only way anyone feels anything is because of the electrons. That's how you feel tactile.
But you're a science guy, aren't you?
They only move or drift through copper at a fraction of a centimetre per second. What do you think I said, Davey? Yes, that was the whole thing, is that the electrons don't come from a different source. It's AC anyway, they just move. The point I was making is the energy is carried by the B field.
That's what I was going to say. That's the angriest I've seen you. Don't attack Steve on science. That's where you live.
First they came for our scientists or something like that. Right, let's crack on. Leo to the Sun, and Sir Keir Starmer has issued a Trump warning. What's he been eating?
So Keir Starmer warns Trump, don't whack tariffs on Britain as he stares down incoming US president. Now, that headline does kind of talk up what actually happened, as you might expect, having, if you've ever seen footage of Keir Starmer, who is not a man of emotion, or any kind of motion.
Or height, he's half Trump's size. Yeah, you oughta.
So basically what Keir Starmer said, I'm not going to speculate as to what he's going to do. It won't come as any surprise to you that I am not a fan of tariffs, and therefore we have to make sure that we avoid tariffs. So it's not exactly, Usyk facing down Fury at the weigh-in. That is Starmer not making a warning at all. So basically... As I mentioned at the start, we've got a trade deficit, or America's got a trade deficit with us, or we've got a trade deficit with them. I'm not sure. I'm not an economist. But basically, we export $7 billion worth of stuff to them a month, and we import $5.5 billion worth of stuff. Trump sees that as money leaving the United States. And he doesn't like this. It's obviously nowhere near as much as, the trade deficit with China, but he still doesn't like it. And also, America's kind of a fortress economy. It's such a big market. They make so much stuff. They don't really need imports and exports as much as Britain does. So Trump is going to punish other countries that have a trade deficit. And he's obviously going to punish, places like Mexico and especially China, which is a sort of strategic enemy of America. And also China subsidizes a lot of strategic industries to sort of undercut the American market, which is something that, some American governments don't mind because they say, well, look, we're getting all this cheap stuff from China. This is good for the American people. But then, it's bad if you're left with no, steel industry, no, industries you really need in a time of crisis.
Yeah, no, I think it was Michael Porter wrote The Competitivity of Nations that speaks about then being able to get countries to have specialisms. I just mentioned that so that Davey can Google it and try and say that wrong. Anyway, Nick, what's your...
Well, yeah, I was going to say, the Tyson Fury versus Alexander Usyk stare down was 11 minutes. This one wouldn't be as long, more like 11 seconds. It'd be over very quickly. Don't try and stare down America if you're Starmer. And why are you so against tariffs? I've heard these are the big, beautiful tariffs, the best tariffs anyone's ever seen. Many people are saying it. But, it's a pity we don't have Farage, because we could have Trump and Farage working together, be much more in harmony than Starmer and Trump. But I feel like Trump's inherent, maybe not inherent is the wrong word, but his sentimental love for the UK would sort of make him affable to working with us. Even with Starmer, I think he would work with the UK. So I'm hoping they can come up with something. Maybe they could bond over their shared desire to bring Sadiq Khan down a peg or two. Because apparently even Starmer's had problems with Sadiq Khan lately, right? So maybe they could bond on that. But it's not an obvious match, is it, Trump and Starmer? On anything, right? They don't really agree on anything, except that they both like the UK. Well, actually, Trump likes the UK. I'm not sure Starmer does.
Yeah, I think Musk and Trump like the UK and like the UK citizens a lot more than Starmer does. Starmer sees them all as far-right thuggery. Rather we're replaced with Belgians and people from Europe.
Surely tariffs can't be set up to include, like, golf courses or something. This is why we should be protected. Trump owns enough stuff over here that he won't want to put a tariff on his own golf course.
Yeah, I guess it wouldn't... you don't really export golf courses because it's hard to get them on a boat.
They didn't mention that in Michael Porter's Competitivity of Nations. Nick, the Express and the Tories have realised there's a new sugar daddy in town.
Yes, it's terrified Tories desperately try wooing Elon Musk amid reform donation rumour. So we've covered this, of course, the rumoured 100 million donation to reform. That's in dollars, it'd be 78 million quid. And we don't know if it's actually happening, but, they've immediately, the establishment, of course, has moved to try and stop it and rejig the rules. And when I say the establishment, I'm quoting Nigel Farage, who said, the establishment stooges are trying to stop this kind of thing happening. And this is a story about the Tories responding to it. Shadow Business Secretary Andrew Griffith, really hard to say Griffith, isn't it? I spelled 3 times there, for example. He's saying the Tories, look at Kemi. Why don't you give the money to Kemi? But the Tories are they've lost it. Kemi's not very good. Let's face it, she hasn't shone as a leader yet. I said pick Jenrick, and she's just not. I think the Tories are done.
Clarkson?
She met Clarkson, and that was a good move because he is the spiritual leader of the populist movement. So,
heart of Albion.
I keep an open mind. I'm famously open-minded, but I think the Tories are kind of done, and I think this shows their desperation. And when was the last time the Tories had a leader with personality and substance? Thatcher is the answer. Boris had the personality, but destroyed the country with immigration and lockdowns. Kemi, I just don't think feels like a leader to me. Yeah. Sorry, Kemi, I'm sure she's very nice.
With that. And I think we need our own homegrown tech billionaires to donate to political parties. So I think it's time for Alan Sugar to step up to the plate.
Yeah.
Because he's similar to Trump. He was on The Apprentice, still is on The Apprentice.
Yeah.
He has made some great strides in computing. There was the Amstrad
emailer. Yeah, the Amstrad emailer. Come on, that was just emailing.
It was like a mobile phone that was, attached to your desk.
It was amazing, yeah. So some of that money could be funneled off to the Tories. All right, good ideas. This show's full of them, isn't it? Leo, the Daily Mail, all those right-wingers were claiming that Joe Biden went senile during his time in office. Well, looks like you were wrong. He was senile when he started the job.
Yeah, that's right. So White House Biden held cover-up blown wide open in bombshell report. Joe was senile from day one of presidency. So the White House tried to hide from the public Joe Biden's rapidly diminishing mental condition for his entire their presidency, according to a bombshell report. So they had to hire a vocal coach. They put officials into roles usually done by the president. They scrapped meetings on his bad days and kept him at arm's length from his own cabinet members. And this is absolutely incredible because during the end of his tenure, when he was going into debates with Trump and he was trying to rustle up some votes he was campaigning for the election, people said he's losing his marbles, and that was condemned as a far-right conspiracy theory. And like all far-right conspiracy theories, it turns out to be incredibly true. In fact, so true that it wasn't even just happening then; it was happening right at the start of his presidency.
I have questions. What was he like before the vocal coach, if that was the result after? The result after, hey, come on, man, call Papa, here are his legs. Like, that's after the vocal coach. It wasn't Mariah Carey, was it? I mean, it's extraordinary. And Biden, I mean, doesn't the Biden presidency, doesn't Biden himself even seem like a kind of metaphor for the liberal elite, and even the West itself just decaying in a fog of lies? And just, it was nonsense from the start, as you say. And what about the Biden whisperers? There were Biden whisperers who were this group around him who were just covering it all up and whispering his ear like worm tongue in Lord of the Rings. That's probably what happened. And they got their comeuppance because it was so obvious from the start to anyone with eyes, but they tried to play it out as long as possible. Then it collapsed when everyone noticed. How did they not notice earlier is the only amazing question. Or did they just refuse to notice? The general American Democrat voting public. Suddenly the debate, they were like, oh, he's incompetent,
Yeah, as soon as they thought, it was going to be better to get somebody else to run. But I think the Democrats were managed by committee, and this is the problem. So then, Kamala or Biden, even on one of his good days, couldn't go out like Trump does and say what he's going to do because he hasn't run it past the committee yet.
They missed an opportunity to do like a 1980s film where they found someone who looked exactly like Joe Biden, who was probably homeless or something, and then coach him to get him to do the work. Come on, that would have been... I would have watched that.
You're stepping into dangerous territory, Steve, because many people on Twitter think there are multiple Biden.
OK, yeah, they're lovely. Well, plenty more to come, including who controls the media and how Keir Starmer is linked to a hit that he won't like. Stay tuned. This is Headliners, only on GB News.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. As we head into tomorrow, we are expecting some outbreaks of rain. This could be heavy at times, largely dry elsewhere, though we can't rule out some showers, and it is going to be fairly windy, particularly as we head into the weekend. It's been fairly chilly today with a brisk northwesterly flow, really adding on to that wind chill, and later on tonight we will see some cloud and outbreaks of rain start to feed their way into the northwest. But for many of us, it is going to be a largely dry night as showers ease away, a mix of cloud and clear spells, so we could see some pockets of frost as we head into the early hours of the morning. But a different story across the far northwest, cloudier here with some outbreaks of rain which could be heavy by the time we reach the morning, and on the whole a fairly chilly night for most. So to start on Friday then, these outbreaks of rain are slowly going to skirt their way towards the southeast of the country. Heavy at times, possibly falling as snow to hills across Scotland. Similar across Northern Ireland, likely to be quite a wet start here. But elsewhere it should be largely dry, perhaps a few showers around parts of Wales and across the southwest too. Cloudier here with the driest of the weather across the far south and southeast. Through the course of the day, though, we'll eventually see those outbreaks of rain slowly sink their way towards the southeast of the country. To the north of this, turning quite blustery with plenty of showers around coastal areas. These could be heavy at times. We may even see some hail and possibly some snow across hilly areas too. Temperatures a degree or two up compared to Thursday, but it is still going to be feeling fairly chilly, particularly in those brisk northwesterly winds across Scotland. Heading into Saturday, another unsettled day, very strong winds at times, particularly across the northwest of the country, outbreaks of rain and very blustery showers at times across Scotland. Once again, these could be turning to snow across high ground, perhaps merging into longer spells of heavy outbreaks of rain too. Fairly unsettled on Sunday too, so do keep an eye on our website for any warnings. Bye for now.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Nightmare commute? Kick it up a gear with GB News Radio. You can listen online and on DAB+ and on the GB News app. We're also on TuneIn and the Radio Player apps. From the school run to rush hour, get revved up with GB News Radio. We are the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. If you want to get involved, you can have your say by going to gbnews.com/your say, but I see Dave has not continued our fight, so I'll keep an eye on that one. Let's do a recap of the front pages before we plough on. The Daily Telegraph goes with PM picks Mandelson to win over Trump. The extra water bill hikes will follow 36% increase unless Labour kills failing watchdog. The Express, Jazelle's brave message of hope after horror, and the Metro goes with I have no regrets. The Independent, freedom for Aung San Suu Kyi, and the Daily Star, world's boffiest boffin, afterlife is real. That's a relief. Nick, the Telegraph, most people take more than they pay in tax, which really is quite impressive when you think of how much tax we pay.
Good point. Majority of Britons receive more in benefits than they pay in taxes, and it's a total of 52.6% lived in households that receive more from the state than they paid to the Treasury last year. That's down from the even more shocking 53.6% the previous year. So this is where we are. Working people are typically net contributors, although even amongst that group, 45.3% receive more from the state. Pensioners receive 85.3%. So it's a disaster, and there are multiple factors one could cite. Birth rate is an obvious one, you know, the ageing population, post-COVID issues, though apparently it can't all be blamed on that. The sort of culture of mental health stuff. The immigration, a lot of it, you know, that we were told immigrants are helping the economy. In many cases, it's been proved not to be true. I'd say also work not paying, and we've fundamentally not worked out a way to incentivise work properly. Yeah. So you've got muggy net contributors, like I finally am, and then you've got this lot just draining me, and finally I'm furious, because now I'm actually paying all this tax. Now I'm furious and outraged.
Yeah, and the worry is that as more and more people, as the people that are net recipients of the state gets bigger and bigger, it's going to be like Argentina before Javier Milei took over. People have got an incentive to vote for the party that's going to lavish the most largesse, the most benefits on them. So then you don't have democracy, you just have a sort of legalised theft from people who are productive.
Do you know what? I don't want to get too carried away, though, because I do hear that show business jobs are not the most stable. So I could end up, I'm just saying, one could end up suddenly, but so, you know, it could be suddenly a recipient again.
I've already half filled in the
times.
form. Yeah, it's ready to go. I've just got to write the date on it and send it. Fair enough. The Daily Mail, and who is in the migrant hotels? It turns out it's often men who have left their wives at home. So exactly the same people who used to use their hotels. Oh, messed up the joke. I'm talking about people with prostitutes.
Oh, right, yeah. I don't think these ones have got prostitutes, although they probably get enough benefits. So the truth about migrant hotels, they host tens of thousands of young men, and cost investigation raises disturbing questions about exactly who's in them and why the government is obsessed with keeping them secret. So this is Sue Reed writing in the Daily Mail, looking at the 220 hotels currently housing migrants around the UK, and she's revealed that every part of England, from Cornwall to Northumbria, Lincolnshire to the Welsh borders, now plays host to a migrant hotel. So this is Operation Scatter. Angela Rayner said, you know, when Labour gets into power, we're gonna make every part of Britain take its fair share. I'm not sure there is a fair share when it's something that people haven't really asked for. But she says instead of putting them on military sites and putting migrants in cities, which is where they've traditionally sort of conglomerated, she's going to move them around. And this is sort of touted as a sort of fairness thing. Really, what Labour are doing, once these migrants are registered to vote, they're going to vote Labour because Labour give them benefits. So, and traditionally, you know, those populations vote Labour. So really, this is a way of tilting the electoral arithmetic and turning, you know, some of these nice Tory areas into Labour voting areas. And the properties are currently housing at least 36,000 people at a cost of several billion pounds a year. And in most hotels, the guests are men in their 20s or 30s who have often left their wives and children back home in the Middle East, South Asia or Sub-Saharan Africa, presumably because women and children are great at fighting in war zones that refugees flee from. I mean, it's obvious that they're not genuine refugees. And I think Operation Scatter is backfiring. When I went up to Dumfries for my dad's funeral, there's a hotel there that's been the cancelled weddings and it's just blocked out with migrants now. And they've had migrants going down to the schools and harassing schoolgirls and just, it's not great. And a video posted online shows 2 signs in one hotel's lobby warning migrants not to touch children without the permission of their parents. Just don't touch children. I mean, I don't even want to be asked if you can touch my child. Just don't touch the child.
Feels like you don't need a sign for that as well. Maybe just don't without having to, I saw a sign that says don't do this.
Yeah.
Normally the signs say no smoking, but I suppose that's depending on what people have thrown at the hotel.
Yeah, it suggests that, like smoking's OK if it's outside. It suggests that, touching children is OK outside, but it's not.
On the flip side, Nick, it's good for the hotel economy.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine a worse betrayal of the people of the country. I mean, the fact that it's done in such clandestine fashion, not a good sign. I mean, in Altrincham, they were busting in the night, there were encrypted emails. The fact that it has to be done in secret suggests it's not a good thing. And the fact that children have to be escorted to the gates, as it says here, by parents, because you've got primary schools next to migrant hotels. In the context of grooming gangs, other crimes we're not even legally allowed to discuss. You say this is such a terrible thing to make people feel so unsafe in their own country. It's just disgusting. I don't know how I can barely overstate. It's impossible to overstate it.
So you're not a fan?
Not a fan,
okay.
No.
Nick, the Daily Mail, how do you keep men out of single-sex spaces? They put a sink in there with some dishes. Am I right, ladies? Wrong room.
So Labour accused of betraying women after stating there's no need to change the law to protect single-sex spaces. So before the election, Starmer was talking about protecting these spaces, but the Office for Equality and Opportunity yesterday dismissed these fears. And their argument is that in the majority of the cases, they're incorrectly... it was all to do with interpretation of the law. So they're saying that there's this part that 10% of the guidance was misinterpreting equality law. Basically, they're saying there's no real need because it's all covered by law already. But what you're running into here is the difference between de jure and de facto. So there are laws, but then there's what actually happens. So they're kind of hiding behind that, the sort of legalese of it. But obviously it's not working because these things continue to be an issue. That would be my take.
Yeah, and also this thing about a gender recognition certificate, a bit of paper that says what gender you are. A bit of paper can't say what gender you are. I think you should have to convince my mate Barry after he's had 2 pints. And if you can convince him that you're a woman, then, yeah, fair dues.
I think that sounds quite a low bar. I imagine it wouldn't be... The Voice probably could do it.
Yeah.
I've not met Barry, but I'm guessing who you're friends with, I suppose. All right, Leo, the Telegraph, the BBC has a scandal about the charts. I mean, let's remember who used to host Top of the Pops. So it's not like the worst one.
Yeah, I mean, and relatively things are getting better. So the BBC refuses to play anti-Starmer Christmas song as it hits #1 in the downloads chart. Is that the same as #1 in the pop chart?
I don't even know. I feel like I should know, but they care about downloads now, apparently.
Yeah, maybe downloads is like the main one. I mean, who goes and buys a CD or a little cassette tape?
Or pensioners. This is exactly the key target market.
And your mate Barry.
And my mate Barry. So this is the song Freezing This Christmas, which I've had in my head all day, which uses the melody of Mud's 1974 hit Lonely This Christmas. Mud haven't sued yet.
We can do a little clip, actually, if you want to be better than the BBC. We can play a bit.
It'll be freezing this Christmas without fuel at home. It'll be freezing this Christmas while Keir Starmer's warm. It'll be cold, so cold.
Home doesn't rhyme with warm would be my biggest moan
Here
there.
we go.
I think it's close enough.
It's not close. The guy who wrote it said he took him an hour to write. Well, maybe spend an hour and a half and find something that rhymes with warm.
What rhymes with warm?
Swarm.
Oh, yeah.
Where would swarm feature in this?
As in a swarm of electrons.
That must be it, yeah.
So, yeah, the BBC aren't playing it. And I think that's disgusting. This is like when they wouldn't play God Save the Queen. And this, I'm sure this song will have the same cultural impact.
Yeah, but apparently they will play other songs by, for example, by the Northern Irish band Kneecap, who I'm scared of criticising, but, you know, they will play political songs.
I read a funny review about Kneecap. So, you know, they pretend they talk like the Troubles are still going on and they're pro... I think they praised Hezbollah on stage. There was some footage online. That's what I was told anyway. Sorry if that's not true. Please don't sue me. But,
I don't think they're threatening to sue you. Let's look at the title of the...
They're not going to kneecap me either, because one of them is all like... He's apparently made this film. One of them claims to be the son of an IRA person, and his father's actually some sort of theatre guy. So it's just theatre kids pretending again. So everything... It's like Ireland's...
You would prefer the brutal reality, is that what you...
I know people who've got IRA relatives. This is stolen valour. Or the sort of terrorist version of stolen valour.
Can they sing, though, I think is the question. We should plough on to make sure we get the next one in as well. Nick, the Daily Mail, there's a debate about who controls the media. Well, we can't actually say because we're on the media. But, you know, good luck.
A lot of ploughing on, Steve. I see this more as an art than just ploughing through.
I'm helping farmers.
Its CNN panel descends into fiery clash as guests debate who really controls the media. Well, the internet's got some ideas, but yeah, this was a debate between Julie Roginski, is that it, and Scott Jennings, and I've watched the clip, and they're sort of both right, but she is a bit incoherent. I mean, really, it's a debate between old and new media. So she says that. He talks about the anti-Trump media, and she says, what anti-Trump media? And then he's like, you haven't heard of the anti-Trump media? Obviously, it's absurd, because we all know the media was just ridiculously against Trump, 99% against Trump for about a decade. So we all know this. But she points out, yeah, but you've got Scott Hannity, you've got Joe Rogan, etc. And there's a kernel of truth in it, that the new media, Joe Rogan, etc., are sort of quite pro-MAGA. They weren't always. Rogan himself was a Bernie Sanders fan who then came across to Trump. But they're both right in a sense. Of course, the old legacy media was massively anti-Trump, but now there's been a bit of a switch in general towards MAGA and in alternative media, which is the new mainstream.
Yeah.
There's also Fox and Newsmax and things like that as well.
Well, that's what she's referencing as well, Hannity and stuff, yeah.
The real issue that she's complaining about is the fact that people didn't like the old, relentlessly left-wing media, so they started watching different things and they became popular because liberals... They don't believe that they're outliers, but really they're outliers. If you talk to regular people, most of them don't want to transition children and have completely open borders. That's just, ridiculous ideas. So most people are kind of right-wing. And so, people like GBNews. GBNews is now more popular than Sky, the, left-wing news channel. So people are just gravitating towards stuff that they like. And obviously liberals don't like that because they want to control everybody.
So that's who controls the media. That's it done then. Still to come, how to make Christmas dinner easier with the family, alcohol, and what makes animals more willing to have sex. Alcohol? Find out next. This is Headliners, only on GB News.
You're looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
There will actually be some hazardous weather across parts of southern Europe through the next few days, with a strong Mistral wind developing over southern France and into Corsica, leading gusts here of around 70 miles per hour and some hefty showers with that as well. Further east, and we have some heavy thunderstorms pushing across parts of Greece and into Turkey, and here we could see rainfall totals building up to around 200 millimetres. Elsewhere, there will be some fine weather around, with temperatures near or a little bit below average.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
I'm Nana Acquia. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
The way in which children are being driven online because we're not taking them seriously offline. And what we're tending to do is seeing the problems entirely on the social media, forgetting the fact that we've given up on children being able to work independently and play independently outdoors. We've basically created a world where the digital bedroom has become this go-to area for a lot of young kids. We've given up on old-fashioned parenting, where we try to cultivate their resilience. And now we blame everything, all the problems that occur online, You have to remember that if you take something like bullying, bullying, doesn't have to only take place online. It happens all the time, offline, in everyday life. But yet we only see the problem on the social media, and there's this obsession with the social media where every single problem that afflicts childhood is blamed on it. And that distracts us from actually understanding what we're doing wrong with children. So for me, and I hate when I see children with digital technology, when I see them with smartphones. I'm not a fan. I'm much more concerned about the fact that parents, use their digital phones when they're having dinner with their kids and giving very bad examples in relation to that. But the real problem, it seems to me, is offline, and that's why we got to crack the issue. So for me, the banning issue is entirely a headline-grabbing political gambit. And I think that we should be much more focused on the real problems rather than delude ourselves that anything will improve.
GB News, the People's Channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get the book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. You can get involved. Go to gbnews.com/your say. I'm not having a good night in the comments tonight, I'm afraid. Anne-Marie says, Steve, disappointing paper shuffling tonight. Too much limp for my liking. Go for paper cuts. You know you can do it. I'm sorry, I can only apologise. I tapped. I didn't really... It's not a good show.
You've lost it, mate.
I've turned into the Schaefer. I'm now criticising my own show. That's
worst show ever.
Leo, The Guardian, and this story starts by asking, why do black women... And that's where I decided to not write a joke. Good luck.
Why do black women consistently vote Democrat is how this sentence ends. This is The Guardian, so they're not going to talk about anything else. So no other demographic has maintained the level of voter loyalty for a party as black women have for the Democrats, and they've got experts that say so. Black women apparently, as a bloc, voted for Kamala Harris. 92% of them voted for Kamala Harris. That's way higher than black men or any other group. Black men are actually drifting across to Trump, along with Latino men. And basically everybody was drifting across to Trump. But yeah, they say here it's because the Democrats' support of equitable programs and policies is what's driving black women's allegiance to the Democrats. These are policies of sort of redistributing wealth from people and giving it to black women, I guess, and they like that.
Well, there's a claim that a lot of it goes back to Barry Goldwater opposing the Civil Rights Act in 1964. I know some of it is apparently goes back to LBJ as well. Was seen to be helping them and so on. But yeah, it's interesting. When I checked after the election, the groups that voted most for Kamala Harris were black women, Jewish women and LGBTQ plus groups. But I guess they're not massive numbers. That's probably why she lost so badly. But as you say, black men is about 19% Trump, Latino men coming across to Trump, which will happen because of the Democrats completely failing to look after sort of working people anymore, that they're a party of the elites. And it's bound to happen, isn't it? But it is quite tribal in America, the voting thing. It always seems to get racial. We import a lot of this racial stuff, but it's always these racial lines you can divide voting into. Yeah,
there are some concerns that in a sort of multi-ethnic democracy it becomes a sort of a racial headcount. What's interesting is the Democrats used to not be seen as the party of the black people because the Republicans were against slavery, opposed slavery. So, they used to vote for Republicans.
Yeah. Leo, the Daily Mail, more news from the University of Cardiff.
So, scientists discover alcohol makes animals so randy they abandon standards for a mate. We are not so different, you and I. So this is a recent review, money well spent on this study. It finds that basically animals drink a lot of booze and then it impairs their judgment, and then they have sex with literally anything that moves. Well, I guess it's got to be. It's usually the same species, but there's sort of there's a sort of reappraisal of the idea that alcohol is just something that humans use. Animals use it a lot as well, although they don't pay for it. They just let grapes ferment on their own. And then
although this was based on ethanol, so humans aren't really just drinking ethanol, except Scottish people, obviously. That's all I've got on that. I know ethanol's in it, but I mean like pure ethanol was the joke. It doesn't matter, whatever.
Just because Davey's going to be tweeting me or something.
Yeah, I know it's
the only
in
alcohol that we have.
But I was talking about pure ethanol, the kind you get in science class, Steve, when you're doing all your nerdy test tube stuff.
Meanwhile, Nick, the Daily Star scientists have made a formula for Christmas dinner. Let me guess, it includes pie.
Hey!
Nice. I got that.
P-I.
Well, it's just the letter pie.
The letter pie.
It's a sign, isn't it? Really?
One.
Yeah. Cool. Christmas dinner turned into... That got a bit like Christmas dinner there. It's about as awkward. Christmas dinner turned into scientific formula so Brits can have harmony at table. We've all had problems with families having the wrong political views. But this comes from the University of Bradford, and it's basically nonsense. Yeah. Why tastiness multiplied by healthiness divided by cost? But you were annoyed because it wasn't really a real formula that you and Hawking would come up with on Epstein Island.
Something in there. The rest of it, no SI units, so it's not a ratio. Right, the show's nearly over. It's the angriest one I've ever done, though. It's weird, isn't it? Let's take a look at the front pages. The Daily Telegraph, PM picks Mandelson to win over Trump. The Eye goes with extra water bill hikes will follow, 36% increase unless Labour kills failing watchdog. The Daily Express, Giselle's brave message of hope after horror. The Metro, I have no regrets. The Independent, freedom for Aung San Suu Kyi. And the Daily Star, world's boffiest boffin, afterlife is real. That's it for tonight's show. Thanks to my guests Leo and Nick. Cressida Wetton will be sat here tomorrow doing the work at 11 with Carey Marks and Scott Capurro as well. If you're watching at 5 a.m, stay exactly where you are, because breakfast is on the way. If you're watching at 11, breakfast is still on the way, just a bit later. Till the next one, have a good one.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. As we head into tomorrow, we are expecting some outbreaks of rain. This could be heavy at times, largely dry elsewhere, though we can't rule out some showers, and it is going to be fairly windy, particularly as we head into the weekend. It's been fairly chilly today with a brisk northwesterly flow, really adding on to that wind chill, and later on tonight we will see some cloud and outbreaks of rain start to feed their way into the northwest. But for many of us, it is going to be a largely dry night as showers ease away, a mix of cloud and clear spells, so we could see some pockets of frost as we head into the early hours of the morning. But a different story across the far northwest, cloudier here with some outbreaks of rain which could be heavy by the time we reach the morning, and on the whole a fairly chilly night for most. So to start on Friday then, these